Well, let's get started then, Chris. Thanks.
All right. There you go.
Oh, we're live. Okay, great. It's October 24th, 2023. We're meeting for the Finance Committee today. Present are myself, Randy Allison, and Eric Biter. City Council members, Liz Mealy, Chair, will be coming in pretty shortly here. We have today the Mayor, Derek Slaughter, our finance person, Tracy Raish, Bonnie Katz, Councilwoman Katz, who's sitting in. We have James Frank, our city clerk, Kevin Mackey, our city treasurer. I see Peg Woodring, our city controller, is also present today. There's a few individuals that I'm not sure who they're with. There's Heather Jacoby, Kim Stark, and Justin Bell.
Heather's our new director of finance. Randy.
Oh, okay. All right.
Justin's with ZA.
Okay. If I'd have seen her face, I would have known who it was, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So thanks for the reminder. Okay, well, let's get started. Item 1 is a resolution for a letter of engagement with Kathleen Thomas, and Kevin Mackey, our city treasurer, is going to cover this item.
So Kathleen was first appointed a few years back by Nick Grimes when she worked for High Schwartz or High Sports. Not sure exactly how they say that. But Kathleen has since no longer works with them, and in order to retain our same ensemble of cadre or people, I want to reappoint her and recognize the fact that she is working on her own. This is just to make sure we have an alternate tax officer if our current ones, Fred Holland and Jenny Brown, are unable to do or perform their duties for whatever reasons. Just make sure we have a equal amount of opportunities to get things done.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Eric, do you have any questions?
It looks like we may have lost him, Randy.
Yeah, I see that. I was going through the names quickly and I'm like, I think he disappeared. There he is.
Sorry about that. No, I do not have any questions. Just seems like pretty standard housekeeping stuff.
Yeah. I don't have any questions either. So obviously, Kevin, has she interacted with us up to this point?
Kathleen is a one of our big names in our area, at least when it comes to the business tax. She's originally from the Philadelphia area, but as part of the business tax conference that this position goes through once a year, she regularly takes the lead and shares her knowledge willingly with myself and other tax collectors. Okay. So she's a wealth of knowledge. She's very polite, and I cannot give her enough compliments. Her presentations at the conference are always welcome.
Okay, that's great endorsement. So yeah, I don't have any other questions, and we're good with that. So we don't have a vote on any of these anymore. So sounds good, Kevin. Let's move on to item 2, resolution for a letter from Markham LLP Accountants and Advisors.
So again, this is the same thing, except our current auditor was, well, for business taxes was McCarthy. McCarthy was acquired by Markham. Our relationships with the people that worked at McCarthy are all going to remain the same. And I think he outlines on his letter there any changes in services for the most portion. All the services are going to remain the same. I think there was a slight increase in cost from when they were first appointed back a couple of years ago when Nick did it. But that's just recognizing the change in times and the increase in cost over the years.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Any questions, Eric?
I have none.
Bonnie, do you have anything you'd like to chime in on here?
No, I don't, Randy.
Okay. Me either. Again, that's rather standard. So let's move on to item 3, resolution authorizing PSDLAP to act as settler.
So there's actually a slight change that it's PSLAF, Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund. I think there was just
Okay.
a typo there at the end of that resolution, but they are very similar to Pliget, except they aren't just using municipal funds, they're using municipal and school funds. I think over the past 10 or 15 years, they've branched into the municipal area to kind of give us the ability to use their rates as well. A lot of the commercial banks around here and just in general can't compete with the rates that these guys offer, and regularly it's like 0.5% or more in difference. And when we're looking at millions of dollars like we have with the ARPA funds, having that extra 0.5% can mean the difference between a paycheck and payroll. So it's with these guys, it's just going to give us another option to look at Pliget and weigh our options to see whoever's got the better rate to pick them.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Eric, any questions about this one?
So are they essentially a bank then that they're dealing with, like almost like you could go to a credit union, but they only deal with municipalities and school districts?
In a sense, they're going to operate the same.
Okay.
It's basically Pliget, but with more funds and a competitive rate, which is what I'm trying to find.
Sure.
I've browsed over many of the banks around here, and some don't keep up with the changing federal rates, and some don't change the rates over time, while others can't compete with what's happening with Pliget. Again, Pliget's rates are generally 0.5% or more better than the commercial banks around this area.
Sounds good.
Bonnie, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, Randy. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. That's a good, concise explanation, Kevin. Appreciate that. There's a lot of legalese in the resolution that I'm not really familiar with. So thank you for. So so we basically do this every year, and can you give us just a brief idea of how much money we're putting through there?
As of now, we don't have anything because we're not yet authorized to work with them. Thanks to some of the efforts that we've made this past year, I think as of October 2nd, we crossed $1 million in interest.
Okay.
So that's much more than I think we were expecting to get, and I don't think they've done raising their rates, but we'll see what happens. We could take a few actions in about a week here to see what they do.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Appreciate that. On all 3 of these, some good housekeeping things that help us keep solvent and legal. Okay, let's move to item 4, resolution to accept fiscal year 2019 audits. Slaughter.
Yep, good afternoon, Councilman Allison and Councilman Biter. This item was on a few weeks ago, and then council asked for a few weeks to digest the audit, to take a look at it, and Councilwoman Mealy as well. Good afternoon. And then have some time to digest and come up with any questions they may have. So it's back on now. And Kim Stank and Justin Bell are here from ZA. And of course, Tracy is on as well if you have questions for them.
Okay, thank you. I see Councilwoman Mealy's here now, so.
Thanks, Randy. Yep, I'm here. And I take it did we cover the other items already, or are we just moving to the audit because Kim and Justin are here?
No, we did cover the other ones already, Liz, but.
Right, Randy, you're moving so fast.
Well,
All right.
Kevin just does such a great job explaining all this stuff.
It's true. Well, thank you. Okay, well, so I guess actually this goes first to Eric. Eric, do you have any further questions?
The only concern that I have is one that we had talked about at the council meeting a few weeks ago was the omission of RVT in this audit and what that's going to do going forward for us and how that will be added in the amendment. Are we any closer to getting an answer from RVT when we're going to see their audits that are going to coincide with these years for us?
Mayor, do you want me to address that?
Yes, if you don't mind, Tracy, thanks.
Councilman Biter, I've been in touch with RVT numerous times regarding their audits because part of their information obviously is city side. They are in the process right now of concluding their 22 audit, getting the final information to their auditors on that, and then they'll work towards their 23. They're on a fiscal year end. RVT is on a fiscal year end, so their year end is June 30.
So to answer your question, Eric, they have completed their audits. We simply did not request that the auditor include their audits in our audit. Do you understand that ZA?
Yeah, I understand that now when you put it so direct. Thank you.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, and no, but it is a good question because why was it just a cost savings thing that we didn't request that ZA incorporate this outside audit into our audit? Or would they have had to have completed the audit to make it a part of the city's audit? Tracy?
We would have had to take their information, which they keep on a fiscal year, and do all the conversion to get it over to a calendar year to have it on our audit, which was what was being done every year. And it didn't add anything to our audit. So it was just decided to leave it off so that we can move forward. By the time we get to clean audits in 23, RVT's gone anyway. So that was kind of the thought process through that.
Got it. And the parking authority, they don't need to be in our audit, right? They always were. But we don't need to incorporate them?
So a full financial audit would include the parking authority, but there is an option to not include that and then just say that in the audit. The parking authority, I will tell you, I have been told is not current on any of their audits. They are as far behind as I believe 19 as well.
Got it. So we would have been so we would still not be able to complete this audit. Were we waiting on the parking authority?
That's correct.
Got it. Okay, Eric, does that help clarify where we're at with that?
It absolutely does.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I would agree that it would be nice to see the complete package, but the combination of fiscal year to concerns and just general added cost and the fact that RVT will eventually no longer be part of the city's audit anyway, I think makes a strong argument for leaving it as is. Sorry, I meant to put my video on and instead turn my audio off. The combination, I think, makes for a decent argument for leaving them out. Any other questions from you about this audit?
I have none more.
Okay. Randy, how about you?
No, I don't have any questions about the audit. That was a great question, Eric, and it opened up all the different aspects and it's always been a problem with RVT that they're on a fiscal year and we're on the calendar year. So It's always been tough to juggle the two of those. So for us to get where we need to be, we need to be streamlined at this point. So yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah, I think this is it's the best course of action, although it's obviously not ideal.
Mhm.
But I don't know, Tracy, we did not see RBT's 2020, 21, and 22 audits, correct? We just saw 2019?
I cannot speak to what you what you saw.
Well, I feel like we got a presentation about 2019, I guess.
I just
I-
know they haven't finished their June 30, 22 audit yet. That's what's in process right now.
Okay. I guess, Eric, would you like, I wouldn't mind getting some sort of basic presentation on RVT's audits from those years. Would we like to request that? For
I
the
think
good
it's
that's in
fairly
it?
pertinent considering everything
Right,
else that's going
okay.
on with them.
Got it. Would it be possible, I mean, given that RVT was still a part of the city's budget for those years, would it be possible, Derek and Tracy, for council at some point to get a presentation from RVT's auditor?
Sure, we can, yeah, Tracy and I can reach out to them and request that. I don't see that being an issue.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it should be. I know that we saw something about one of the audits, but I don't honestly even remember if it was complete at that point or if it was still in process.
I believe that was 1920, but
Okay, that was my thought, but the whole draft audit thing sometimes makes it confusing because then you're not quite sure whether you saw the final or not. But okay, that would be good, I think. I think I had a couple of questions, a couple more questions about the maybe not so specifically about the audit as about some sort of general accounting best practices. One thing, and you'll pardon me because these were questions that I actually sort of thought up during that presentation that Kim put on for us a week or so ago. And I had asked him at the time, Tracy, whether where the fund that Adam Yoder created for Graphius and the levy, the sort of emergency reserve fund, where that falls in the audit. And she wasn't able to tell me that. Do you know where it is?
So
in those audited numbers?
It was only created in 23, so it doesn't fall anywhere in this audit.
Okay. So it will appear starting in the 2023 budget year.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And then, so what are the special funds in this audit? Hold on, I'm gonna have to go. Sorry.
There's a number of special revenue funds, if that's what you're referring to.
That is what I'm asking about. What are they?
Kim, you want to speak to that?
Sure. So if you turn in the back of the financial statements, there is a schedule that actually combining schedule that lists all of them out. So CDBG, non-revenue escrow, liquid fuels, home rehab, redevelopment authority, Act 13, pool repair, and debt service fund. That service fund isn't a special revenue fund, but those are all the non-major funds.
Got it. And the total of those then, I apologize, Kim, I was driving, which is why I was late to the meeting and I don't have the audit pulled up. So the total of those funds I'm trying to remember. There was a page in the audit where there were three separate funding streams basically carved out. And one was sort of general fund. Yep.
Right.
Sorry.
So there's major funds, and we talked about major funds have either higher assets or higher revenues, and they spike out as themselves and are individual. And then all the other funds go into one column called the non-major funds.
Got it.
And then those are individually listed as a separate schedule in the back.
Okay, got it. All right. Then my only other question for you, I think, was according to just a brief exchange I had with Tracy, the city's debt limit is about $62 million. And right now we presumably have somewhere between 20 and 23 million in debt. But can you go over for me a little bit what the recommended debt is for a city our size, like the recommended max debt and what the recommended fund balance is end of year for a city our size. I know that does seem to change a little bit year over year.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn that to Tracy and let her as the consultant advise you on
Got
that.
it.
Not have your
Okay.
independent auditor do that.
So the standards that I'll refer to are put out by what's called the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And those that's the governing body that sets out the rules for how governments report. They give you best practices, those types of things. So with respect to, let's start with the second half, because that's the easier half. With respect to your fund balance carryover, they recommend anywhere, I think it's between 3 and 6 months of expenditures for you to carry over into the new year.
So for us, that would be somewhere between, say, 8 and 12 million bucks.
Correct. So that's recommended. They also recommend you have a policy on how to replenish your fund balance reserve should it fall below the certain parameters. So that's the first
What
thing.
does that policy look like for other municipalities?
So it might say something like, if we fall below 60 or 50%, let's say we're using that. If we fall below 50% of the next year's expenditures, we're going to adopt a budget that repays that reserve 1/6 for the next 6 years to get the reserve back up to what we want it to be.
Okay. But the presumption in that case would be that in some way or another, there was a means to do that. Sorry, I'm just trying to picture what that looks like in our budget. Right. Okay. And then let's talk about debt. And I apologize, Kim, for asking you these questions, but these were questions that we used to, that for some reason our other auditors used to occasionally cover in audit presentations, which was why I just sort of kicked it to the auditor. But Tracy, talk about debt.
So I'm going to say I don't know what the best practice is with respect to percentage of debt. I can certainly look that up for you and have that available for you on Thursday. That's not a question I get asked very often, so I have to look that one up.
Well, I mean, I'm going to assume that nobody wants to max out their debt as a municipality, and that I have always been, both in my personal life and in my political life, fairly debt averse. But that said, I'm not sure whether there's a recommended debt load that allows a municipality to not be devoting a massive chunk of its budget to debt service while also being able to cover, larger expenditures or something like that. So.
Correct. And I think that's why DCED does the calculation and provides municipalities with that calculation, is that they base it on your total revenue, and they say a certain percentage of your average total revenue over the past 3 years. And they use that to say, this is the maximum debt load that you can have. So they're kind of, when you go to buy a house and the realtor says, this is the maximum amount you can afford, and you never want to go to the maximum amount, but that's sort of what what DCD is providing for you.
Got it. So the calculation then that you performed is not, I had understood the debt ceiling to be actually a pretty hard, fast thing. Like, we cannot borrow over that number, but that is not in fact true.
Well, it's legislatively set. That's what they're telling you, is that you can't do that.
It is. Okay. Sorry. It sounded, when you said it was a calculation DCD provided, like it was a suggestion.
No.
I was like, I was always under the impression that was real hard and fast.
There's something called the Local Government Debt Act that defines the calculation for you, and says what you can borrow, what limit your borrowing goes under.
Got it. Could you send that to us? I think that the calculation, I think that might be helpful.
Wait,
or the text of the Local Government Debt Act.
I'm sorry, you want the Local Government Debt Act sample calculation, or you want my actual calculation that I did?
Either way is fine. It's the mathematics behind it that I'm curious about. But
Gotcha.
your calculation would, of course, also then provide the real number, which would also be useful. So might as well.
It provides the real number to the extent that the numbers that I used
That
are
we know,
accurate.
yeah, exactly, right.
Okay.
Yeah, and well, and like I said, yes, if there is a recommendation for the amount of debt that a municipality should carry, and I'm assuming that there is in some vague fashion out there, I think that might also be pertinent to any sort of ongoing discussions that we're having as a municipality. So that would likely be helpful. Okay, and then I guess a question for both Tracy and Kim. It sounds as though our perception of the next 3 years worth of audits is that none of them will be clean, correct? With a hope to achieve a reasonably clean opinion in 23.
That is our goal. I mean,
Got it.
we are pretty sure that 2020, 2021, and 2022 will have the same disclaimer of an opinion. 23, the goal is to have a better opinion. It still will depend on a lot of those other things that are outstanding. You know, there is still significant potential for loss as well as capital assets. So at that point, we'll need to evaluate those two items to see where we're at with those two things.
Got it. And so we are expecting at this point pretty much no opinion on the next 3 budget years. I understand that you can't.
A disclaimer of an
Well,
opinion.
right. The
Is what we
same, basically, the
anticipate.
next 3 budget years, the summary will likely look relatively similar to what we just saw, correct?
Correct.
Okay. A disclaimer, you can't tell us anything. Okay. But then, with an eye toward improving that in 23. Tracy, where are we at in terms of numbers on those? And are we doing any more? I know that your description of the process basically for 2019 was that at some point you were sort of like, okay, this, it would take a huge amount of effort to get anything more accurate. So this is just the best we can give the auditors. Do we think that we can provide more accurate numbers for 22 at least? Even if we're not likely to get a better opinion out of it?
So I've really been focusing on making sure the ending 22 numbers are accurate, because that will give us good beginning 23 numbers. If I have to back up and try to get the beginning of 22 completely accurate, that would take more time. So I've really been focusing on just getting things to roll forward and be correct at the beginning of 23.
Got it. Okay.
So really that would just be your balance sheet is where
right.
The beginning balance sheet is where we need to focus to make sure those numbers are in good shape and we have support for those numbers. And then the activity of 23 will hopefully be in the right place. That's what Tracy's comfortable with.
Got it. Okay. So I guess just to be clear then, Randy and Eric, I think it's maybe a bit of a question for us as well as just, there are things that are possible and things that are not possible. If we as a municipality or specifically as an elected city council feel strongly that we would like to try to have more accurate numbers working backwards from that end of 2022, then obviously that will take more of Tracy's time. That will cost us more money. So the question is, at what point are looking at 2019, 2020, and 2021 as the lost years, our best option versus attempting to find some level of versus attempting to clarify some level of financial information for those years. Am I right about that, Tracy?
I don't know if anyone would sign a rep letter for 22. The ultimate decision for Kim in giving an audit opinion is that somebody has to sign a letter at the end of the audit taking responsibility for the numbers that are in the audit report.
Oh yeah, Tracy, I'm not asking, this is not really pertaining as much to what the auditor's report is.
Okay.
I think we've established with Kim that is more or less what it is. But what I'm saying is probably with a bunch of deep digging, presumably done by you, we could achieve slightly better numbers that would give us a bit of a clue as to what was going on, at least in some parts of the 2020, 2021, 2022, right? Now that may or may not result in Kim being willing to give us any better financial opinion than what we have. But what I'm saying is that, you know, it seems as though at this point, we're kind of just throwing all of that over. and I was saying that it's a bit of an open question, I guess, for those of us who are looking at this audit. Do we want to do that? Do we want to effectively just kind of lose 3 budget years and say we don't really know exactly what happened there? Or do we want to try and get a greater level of financial certainty? I understand that might not be auditable financial certainty, but you know what I mean. It would still, whether we want to try and put together more of the clues or not, and that is an expensive process, as we know, because we're likely paying you or someone from your office to do it, and that we may or may not be able to be able to achieve a greater level of certainty. So I guess I was just kind of putting that out there to Randy and Eric to think about between now and Thursday as part of the whole question with the audits moving forward. It helps to know where you've come from, but on the other hand, I don't know to what extent we can get better info than we have easily. And it's, I understand that your recommendation, Tracy, is basically try to build a solid foundation for 23 at this point, but I was just asking whether or not we were comfortable with that as the move. And I don't know. I'm just putting it out there as this is the choice that we're currently making. Is that the choice that we want to be making? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
At least for myself, whatever relevant information that we can get that will help us to move forward, if that can be identified in that term or definition, relevant to us being somewhat sure of what we have, but also to lenders and people like that we have a solid financial basis under us. It's going to be hard to quantify that, but if it's going to take a long time to find out some of those things, we can't just sit still. We're going to have to move forward in some manner or fashion. But if there are some pieces of information there that are essential for us to have to move forward, if we have to address it from that point of view, and not knowing how these brilliant individuals sort through all this, I would, just defer to their opinions.
Got it. I think that's wise. So just to be clear, I think if we could somehow move forward pretty quickly with 2020, 21, and 22, there would be the potential for us to have the 2023 audit by sometime toward the end of this year, which I guess, Tracy, would be our quickest path to becoming once again a more viable option for, say, lending, et cetera. Correct?
It certainly would be, but in 1 day a week, you are,
Right.
If I'm the one doing it, and I only have 1 day a week, that is not happening.
Okay. All right. So I think those are the points maybe that we take to the full body of council, guys.
Yeah, I have a quick question about those, what you were phrasing as the lost years, which good term. What bearing do those audits have on the current investigation? Or do we need to have those better completed for this and for our own sake versus what we may or may not be told by the FTA and PennDOT?
I'm not really sure about that question, but as far as the FTA conducting their special audit that they're conducting, from my understanding, working with them, I believe that's about wrapped up or almost ready to wrap up. So I think we'll have that possibly in a not too distant future, but again, I don't have any time frame on that. And as far as these audits right here, I can't really answer that question. I'm not sure if it has any impact or not as far as the from an investigation standpoint.
In my personal opinion, I would think that, again, not knowing how far back FTA is looking into all of this, but we would want to have ourselves double checking this information instead of solely relying on them.
Yeah, I would consider that.
Yeah, and I think, again, I don't know how far back FTA is going. But as far as the RBT audits, I can reach out to them and they may have a better idea on far the PennDOT, as far as the PennDOT and FTA side of things and what role that may have with the audits. So when I asked them about the presentation, I will check with them on that question as well, Councilman Biter, to see what impact that may have currently.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Yeah, I think right. That will be a good question to answer as well. And I guess I think understanding that this audit is not that Kim and the rest of the folks at ZNA have done what they can with the numbers that we provided them. None of that changes this, the draft audit and the lack of conclusivity of it. But I do think you're right, Eric, that we need to think a bit more about our financial situation, the financial investigations we may or may not require moving forward, and how much of Tracy's time that'll take, and all of that, and that's all good matter for a discussion on Thursday in the full body of council, so that at least everyone, both council and upper administration, understands where we're heading and what path we're choosing there, and is on board with it. Okay. Any other comments on this? All right.
I don't have a comment. Just, I kind of jogged my memory list. When we back to the debt limit issue.
Yeah.
Seems to me we were always told it was 2.5 times roughly what our
General fund budget was. Yeah.
Yeah.
2.5 times average revenues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that puts us at, according to Tracy, she thinks around 62 million.
Okay.
I'm assuming our revenue numbers are fairly conclusive, correct, Tracy?
No. I
Okay.
mean, they're the average of the past 3 years, and I can't tell you that they're accurate or not.
So what's in question about our revenue?
Well, I haven't done any of the accruals, number one, for those years for the general fund. I mean, I don't know whether there's revenue missing or not during those years, because I don't know all of your revenue streams and where they should have been coming from, and if they were put into RBT erroneously or not. That's again why I'm focusing on 23, where I don't have to worry about whether money was inappropriately placed in other areas.
I guess what I'm saying is the vast majority of the city's revenue is property tax based, correct? And then we've got liquid fuels, we have home and CDBG funds.
Those are not included in the calculation.
Calculation, right? Exactly.
Grant funding.
So this is basically permits, potentially smaller revenues, things like Bowman Field, right? But primarily permits and property taxes? Are the licensing fees and things like that included?
Any revenue source that isn't grant funded is to be included in there.
Got it. But so anyway, we can be fairly sure of our tax revenue and our permitting numbers, correct?
Once the accruals are done, yes.
Okay, got it. And then everything else. I mean, like I said, I don't think any of us is hoping to approach 62 million bucks, right, Gus? In debt.
Right.
So, as long as it's over 30, I don't think it interests anybody to know exactly what the number is anyway. But we're pretty sure it's not under 30, right, Tracy?
Correct, based on my calculation.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I don't think any of us want to take on more debt, but, and I don't think that we're in a position to until we complete, these audits anyway, if we will be even then. But I was just trying to establish what it was. For some reason, my recollection was significantly less than that, which is why I was curious. But I'm assuming that, that Randy's recollection is more accurate. Okay. All right. Randy, did that
Fine, yeah,
conclude that point?
yes,
All right, then
Yes,
is it
thank
okay
you.
if we, all right? Okay, then shall we move on to item number 5? Thank you, Kim and Justin, for being here. We appreciate it.
thank you.
You're
Yeah, thank
welcome.
you, guys. We appreciate all the time you've put into this with us, and hopefully the remaining years will be a little less complicated, but it's helpful, I think, for all of us to understand what we're both getting into and what we're getting out of in this at this point.
Very
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have
All
a good
right,
day.
thank you, Gina. Item number 5, a resolution authorizing the purchase of Mimecast email comprehensive defense and secure messaging. Chris Black?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, this is a package from a company called Mimecast. It is basically a way that we can very securely contain all of our emails, what's coming in, what's going out, as well as, you know, how they aggressively test to make sure that any emails people get that say at cityofwilliamsport.org are actually coming from cityofwilliamsport.org. So a lot of the spoof out there is not attributed back to us. This also includes a lot of security training for all of the employees and users that we have here, as well as securing emails. So when we're sending out things like social security numbers to banks and personal information to other retirement funds or what have you, it is secure end to end. Plus, with all that on top of it, it should knock down our cyber insurance as well.
Thanks,
It's at a
Chris.
cost, I'm sorry, it's at a cost of $13,022.30 per year. And
Got
this will come out of contracted services.
And how long is the term of this agreement, Chris?
This is a 1-year term. So
Got
it
it.
will be
So-
yearly renewed.
I guess, yeah, and so we don't have a locked in number for any period of time?
Yeah, they don't offer a multi-year option.
Got it.
I have
Okay.
looked at a couple other companies. Nobody could fill all of the, the dots in with one package. I'd have to buy from here or there and somewhere else to get everything all together.
Got it. And any idea how this is likely to affect our cybersecurity insurance?
Well, the
terms of
testing
a dollar.
alone, when we say that all of our employees have had, security training on using emails and so forth, there's one less, there's one more checkbox that we can say that we've taken care of, or we can say, yes, our employees have been trained to know how to identify, what could potentially be spam or a phishing attack. And it's very aggressive on keeping those items out of our system to begin with.
Okay.
The actual numbers, I don't know, but any little bit of this helps.
Got it. Okay. Eric, questions from you?
We've got a lot of add-on, tack-on IT services, and obviously I understand they all serve a role, but I would love to know kind of a little bit more of a map, if you will, as to how they all interconnect with one another and what each one is doing. Because I believe you had said a couple of meetings ago, you're spending about $30,000 or $25,000 within your budget. So you're well within what you have budgeted, but now just to see kind of what all these services do for us.
Sure, it's all basically layers on top of each other.
Sure.
So it's, like one firewall after another. The more you put in front of things, the less likely it's going to get all the way through.
Yep. Yep.
Like
No,
we
I mean, we
have-
can't have a,
we
we can't
have-
have a server going down that the police use and all that kind of stuff. I completely understand that. Levels of
Right, this
protection
is
are
all
important.
stuff from, there's that as well as attacks from outside. Like
Yeah.
we have from Comcast, we have IPS and IDS detection on everything coming into us, which takes care of a lot of it. Then we have, on as far as internet traffic, we have this now as coming through for any email traffic that might be going in and out of us. And I've got other pieces in place that actually monitor the computer. So if anybody picks up a thumb drive that they found on the street and they plug it in, it'll see activity on it and take care and shut it down. I don't know if that's the answer to the questions you were looking for, or.
Yeah, it's somewhat, and it's not an answer that I expected you to give me the whole thing right this second. It's kind of more of an exercise that I would like to see happen for my own personal sake, because again, we've been spending quite a bit of money through IT services this year, and I understand why we are. So we
Good.
don't have these holes, but just to get an idea of, again, what services are doing what. That's all. I'm not
Okay.
questioning how you're doing your job
Sure.
or anything. I'm just
And
curious.
okay, and there is one other thing after the first of the year, I am going to have done what's called a penetration test. So once everything is in place, this is a company that comes and actually tests to see, okay, you've hit these holes, but we found these ones as well. And then we can plug those ones up and they retest in 90 days.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sure.
But as far as from your perception, Chris, at this point, until that test happens, we have basically covered ourselves in terms of cybersecurity.
We believe so. You know, there are a couple other things are going to be in place within the next few weeks, hopefully within the next month and a half. We'll be taking care of more of that, which is like multi-factor authentication for email. Where if you want to get into the email system, you're going to get a text or some other way of putting another number in. So the system actually knows that Mr. Randy Allison is Mr. Randy Allison, and
Mhm.
not someone that just happened to guess his password.
Got it.
Not to pick on you, Mr. Allison. You're in the upper corner, so it was the first one I saw.
Yeah.
That's
With
fine.
yep.
I like being an objective point. Chris, is our cyber insurance, is that a rider on our regular or comprehensive insurance?
I believe so. I know that would be through Molly Steel Shrimp takes care of that. I just know there's a questionnaire that I have to fill out on it each year.
I just wondered how much that item costs us.
I don't know. I wanted to say I guess would be like 80, but that's a pure guess.
All right.
I can get that information for you, Randy.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. I know it's important because my previous employer, someone was able to get a hold of all the financial information of every employee in the company. And it happens, so
Yeah.
it
I
is
know.
And you
important.
don't know what's going to happen until it does.
Exactly, yeah.
I know a few years ago, it was either Bucks County or somewhere down that way. The whole county government got hit with ransomware, and it cost them well over $10 million to get it corrected.
Mhm.
And close to a year that they were down.
Wow.
And Allentown had a similar issue where it shut down the city.
Yeah, so
Okay.
if you don't take care of these things, eventually they're not going to insure you because they're going to say, oh, okay, well, you haven't done this or done this or done this. You know, we're not going to give you ransomware insurance. So if something does
Okay.
happen, you know, that's all on you.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. I think I inserted all of my questions in weird places in this discussion. So I think I'm all taken care of. Randy and Eric, anything else from you guys?
No, I have nothing else.
No, I don't.
Okay. Is there any way for Thursday that we could figure out what our current cybersecurity insurance is costing us?
Yes.
I know that we don't know what impact this and other measures might have, but just so that we could kind of have that number when we look to January and this test to see how we're performing, and maybe have a discussion with Kevin about whether or not we can reduce that number now that we've met these goals or something. I know
Yeah.
it was a little hard for us to get cybersecurity insurance last year, so part of the discussion
Right,
may be,
and-
are we more insurable now than we were?
Yes, that is the end goal.
And
Right.
I emailed Molly to get that information for you.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks very much, Tracy. Okay, all right, then I think that takes us to item number 6 on the agenda, which is any related items. Does anyone have anything to introduce today?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't think I've got anything coming up. Tracy, are we looking at quarterly reports here sometime fairly soon?
I distributed them last week and they should have been to you. I gave them to the city clerk last week.
Yeah,
Then perhaps yeah, Randy, did we get them? I might have just missed them.
yeah, we did. Yeah,
Rushing around last week. Okay,
in the email.
So- got it. So we'll put them on the agenda then for finance for our next meeting at the beginning of November. Okay, Tracy?
Yep.
All right. Thanks very much. I'm sorry I missed that. I was not keeping a good eye on my email last week. All right. Then if I hear nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you Thursday.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Liz. Bye, everyone.
Bye.